Welcome to Swamp Talk, where we talk about everything Magic the Gathering. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Thomas.
Say, let's peel back some layers and really get into this.
Yeah, man.
So, Dragonstorm. Dragonstorm. This is going to be a fun set, at least for me. I am excited.
Oh, I'm really excited. I have a Dragon deck, and so this is gonna slot perfectly in there.
Yeah, it's something I think of real note about this set is obviously the dragons, but also just the amount of three color cards. It's the most three color cards in a set since Shards of Alara. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Like creatures, spells, enchantments just across the board. Lots of the dual pay two colorless or a swamp or two colorless force, all that truly a crazy addition to any Dragon or don't forget Tiamat. You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
kind of expansion, and I don't have Dragon, but I have a Miram deck, and there's some exciting things coming around. This is I love going back to Tarkir, getting a lot of those great kind of cons and dragons effects. Really, I'm excited. This is gonna be a banger. I think this is gonna be
Yeah.
really,
I
really,
mean,
really fun.
I agree. I think this is probably the thing you and I are both most excited about. Uh, there's so much that they're bringing to this set, and the fact that they're doing the enemy color sets.
But I think they've done some really fun stuff here, and I think what's really nice is this set's going to be kind of powerful. I feel like for most kind of formats, there's really powerful commander things. There's gonna be some really fun additions to standard, really fun kind of draft sealed kind of moments. I think
Mhm.
this set's gonna kind of just be whatever flavor of Magic you like. There's gonna be something to offer.
Yep.
Which it's from a balance standpoint, I think is really hard to do. So huge credit to Wizards on that one, where they're like, wow, you're actually giving all your players a little something.
Which is
Um,
kind of crazy because you think about the previous set, right? Ether Drift had an amazing draft environment, amazing sealed environment. I mean, we haven't played in standard in it, but probably has a really good standard inclusion. Those one-on-ones competitions where you're playing just with 20 life, you probably gonna do pretty well. But it didn't sit well or as well in Commander, right? So it kind of like left some formats. This format, like this set, bringing everything, right? You're gonna have things for the Commander sets. You're gonna have things for all of your standard, modern, pioneer, like all the formats are going to get something from the set, which is like you said, it's not easy, but a big accomplishment for them. Like this, and I don't know about you, but for me, I think this is probably the set that I'm going to be most hyped about this entire year.
yeah, we've seen some previews from some upcoming universes beyonds, which are interesting. But from just this set as a whole, um, the flavor feels so spot on for the true universe of Magic Gathering, the planes like inside of its own universe. And so many people are this is incredible for Marvel, this is incredible for Final Fantasy, different universes beyond things, which are fun. Don't get me wrong, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I like to see more things inside of the Magic the Gathering kind of sphere where this is in a plane, this is revisiting something. And I know part of that for me is nostalgia,
Uh-huh.
playing for so long. But I honestly think we get more balanced cards because I think sometimes in the universes beyond, they're really trying to stretch the limits of what a card should be just because that's what it is in its universe. Um, and they're trying to make sure it's on flavor for that. While here inside of this, it's more, well, is this good for Magic the Gathering, not just for Fallout or for Final Fantasy or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But let's get into some of these cards here. So we kind of taking a look at what's coming. I think there's three things specifically to mention. Um, there's some incredible cards, and we're not going to go into them so much because they've kind of been beaten to death. Ugin, Eye of the Storms. Uh, it's really interesting to me that this dragon set has this incredible dragon planeswalker. You know, first planeswalker coming around, and
That will get played
man, the
in
Eldrazi
zero.
players.
It will get played in zero dragon decks. The dragon planeswalker, they get played in zero dragon decks. This
Yeah, it's.
it's crazy.
I mean, it's not that there hasn't been other Ugin cards that really haven't been about dragons, but it's just funny how this one of the just obnoxiously strong cards of this set. I I I I mean, I don't know why they're giving Eldrazi players fuel. No more fuel for the Eldrazi's, please.
What I think is
I
interesting though about this card, right? Just to kind of like, kind of round it out. I don't know that this really fits well in this set because there's not a lot of colorless big bomb spells that you're going to get out of this set. Like this is kind of really like the thing that's going to maybe round out other sets. Like it doesn't really belong, but very powerful card.
yeah, it's all I'll say. It's a powerful card. I definitely agree. For the set that has the most tri-colored cards in a long time, it's kind of weird that the most
Hmm.
powerful planeswalker in the set is a colorless planeswalker.
That only cares about colorless
Again,
cards.
yeah, again, if you're doing some really cool artifact colorless things, Eldrazi things, I mean this is an absolute kill on sight card.
Hmm.
Um, just utterly disgusting. I don't know if it fits well in the set, but definitely an incredibly powerful card. Which kind of just leads us into something that again is pigeonholed because it's only for dragons. Drachnogenesis. Rooftop storm for dragons, boys. Here they
Yeah.
come. It's again, it's only for dragons, so you're only going to see it in those dragon decks. But man, if this pops down turn 6 and people still got 4 or 5 cards in their hand, you're like, okay, in response.
Yeah. You can never let this. You can never let this sit. Like this will. This will. Yeah, Jack and Genesis. It can't ever resolve. It's. If it does, then pretty much every deck that will play dragons, they just kind of win the game. Like it's too good uh,
Yeah,
to let them
it's
win.
scary. Yeah,
Uh,
it's if they have no cards in hand, you're fine. But man, if this gets played and there's any amount of cards in hand, it's like, oh man, old Gnawbone, here we come, boys.
yep.
Or any of other 25 terrifying 8 cost dragons.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely. Okay, and the last one being Call of the Spirit Dragons, which is, again, another pigeonhole card. Very powerful. Beginning of your upkeep, for each color, put a 1/1 counter on a dragon you control of that color. And they're all indestructible. Like, again, this is another, I just win the game. I win the game right now unless you can get rid of this. Like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's one of those things though that not only is it only for dragons, giving that alternate win con where if you have the 5 colors, you automatically win the game. But again, it's 5 colors. So not only is it dragons, but you have to be running basically Tiamat or the Ur-Dragon
you have to.
to even consider this card.
Yeah, so it's even
Um,
more pigeonholed than Dracanogenesis.
yeah.
But again, very powerful. We will see a lot of it. But that's kind of why we're not focusing on these because we all know that everyone else is gonna focus on these. If you'd be crazy to not at least talk a little bit about this, but I think what's important is not to just point out the obvious powerful cards, but to look at what in the set is going to be powerful other than this, and what cards are going to kind of sneak past, the obvious.
Yeah, I think there's some cards that haven't entirely been given their time in the sun yet, and people will see it. One of the ones that really sticks out to me, and I think some people have noticed, is the Urs Rakshasa. I mean, I think this is going to be a terrifying card. Not only is it a 2 mana 5/5 with trample,
Mm-hmm.
but man, that exile effect from graveyard, I'm seeing it of like, man, hold on. How I can make all of my opponent's creatures decayed, which means they can't block? Man, let's top that Cabal coffers. How much mana do we have? All right, target 15 creatures. You're all decayed now.
Well, not only can they not block, they have to
It's that.
sacrifice them if they attack. So now you're putting
Yeah,
that, it's like
it's
now your creatures are, hopefully they have abilities, because that's what they're really good for right now.
it's such a fun mechanic. I'm glad they didn't make this a zombie. Um,
If this would have
you
been a
know,
zombie, this would have been auto include in any zombie deck. I mean, this is already going to be an auto include in zombie decks, but that it would have made it much worse.
yeah, I think it's a great addition to Demon. I'm glad that it has decayed itself. Very flavorful, very powerful card. I love the fact that it's a 5/5 body that gets one good swing,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's going to sit in your graveyard, and people are going to be terrified of when you have 10 mana that you're just going to turn the entire board into a putrid, just mangled fest of decayed creatures.
Yep.
It's something I'm going to look to run into my horrors decks, something I might put in some of my graveyard decks. This is a really interesting inclusion in black.
Yeah,
And
this fits
I
so
can't
well
wait
in so many
to
decks.
I it's going to be really fun early because you get a 5/5. Again, I think what's really great is it's decayed. Like if this had been a creature and it didn't have decayed and could just swing around, it would be unfair. But you only get one swing. You can't block. There's no chump blocking with it. It's I'm gonna get in my 5 damage, and then it's gonna sit in the graveyard for an extra effect.
Yep.
And I really appreciate that they've put it on sorcery speed for its graveyard effect. Um,
It's like only fair,
so
right?
you
Like,
can
it's kind of crazy
I
if it was instant.
there was somebody there on the balance team was like, man, what if we put this in instant speed? And you'd be like, so what? You declare attackers, they're all now
Yeah,
decayed.
they're all now decayed now. Like, yeah,
Oh
attack me.
jeez. But no, incredibly fun card. And as we kind of walk down the colors, we can walk over to blue and tie again Master Opportunist, or Opportunist, I should say. Really fun blue effect. Another low coster, small body. Uh, but man, there's so many Is It decks or Jeskai decks that are going to have so much fun with this weird copy and then suspend, where it's
Hmm.
like, your man, think about it. All right, what did he cast 4 turns ago? Like,
Yeah. I mean, the fact you get to
it's,
copy it and then it gets exiled with 4-time counters. I mean, basically any deck that runs cantrips, that runs quick spells, that runs anything that wants to like cycle through your library, draw spells, whatever it is just gonna it's gonna go off because it's just you have to know that they're gonna cast it now and they're gonna get a chance to cast it later. And there's just really nothing that anybody could do about it. It's just, I'm gonna cast it, and because this is when you cast your second spell, it's on cast. So even if you counter that spell, I still get this ability. So
yeah,
it's
it's
kind of
definitely
crazy.
one of those that, man, when it hits the battlefield, don't let them untap with big mana.
Oh
Um,
man.
like don't let some big. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but your Cyclonic Rift is your second spell. Uh,
Yeah.
time warp. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of there's like I know that you and I both have an Izzet deck that really kind of depends on instants and sorceries, and I can say for both of us, this card would sit so well. I mean, it just kind of adds that new layer of redundancy that I brainstorm. Well, I don't have to just brainstorm once. I can brainstorm twice now. Like this is great.
yeah, it's really fun to see, and in all fairness, it's giving an extra package to suspend decks as well, who are already going to try to manipulate those suspend counters.
Oh god.
I think that's really cool that they. I like to see it when they go back to some of these old mechanics, and they don't have to make it a primary theme of the expansion, but I like seeing support for these mechanics that we don't get to see often. Suspend was one of my favorite mechanics 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been a lot of it since then. Obviously the Doctor Who decks had a lot of it, but other than that,
Yep.
there hasn't really been much suspend in the last decade. Um,
Well,
and this is
the Doctor Who deck specifically, I think this is kind of amazing, right? This is kind of amazing for me because I look back, I got really big into the Doctor Who decks. I love Doctor Who, but I was really disappointed because a lot of the decks didn't have a lot of support afterwards, right? Especially what I thought was the coolest deck, which was the villains deck. We never saw another a villainous choice card that ever got printed. So, like, basically, you were just kind of stuck with what that was. The most useful deck, right, to be able to upgrade was the the ninth, 10th, and 11th Doctor. Because it had so much suspend in there, you could put new suspend cards. But this thing, like you said, this will change that game because that whole deck is about manipulating time counters. So this kind of becomes an auto include in that deck now.
Yeah, it's if you get some extra, I mean, talk about chaining extra turns, you know, extra turn on extra turn on extra turn with suspending things, recasting them from your graveyard to suspend them again.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is a terrifying card for two. Um, obviously it's not going to be great in every deck, but man, there's so many decks that I know that this is fantastic. Even if you're not manipulating the time counters and you're just waiting for 4 turns, um, I mean, in all fairness, you blasphemous act. Guess what? In 4 turns, what's happening again? You know what's happening. There's no way around it. It's coming back round. Um, it's gonna be interesting.
And also,
Um,
a note: this says spell, so this
we
also
got
counts for
creatures.
creatures,
It's true.
enchantments, whatever it is. So if you thought that one creature, like one specific creature, was bad, get ready for a second one. Like it's because it's coming.
It is. It again. It's gonna be a fun card. It's gonna be fantastic. Huge value. Speaking of value, uh, Smile at Death. That is gonna be such a fun mono white enchantment. I'm gonna have so much fun with that in some of my token decks, some of my little creatures. Man, beginning the upkeep, return up to 2 target creatures, power 2 or less, and put a 1/1 counter on those creatures. Man, talk
Oof.
about value every single turn, over and over and over. Here's the welcoming vampire again. Here's the ocelot pride
Here's the
again.
heir
Like
apparent.
whatever. Yeah, here's the heir apparent again. Not only is it one heir apparent,
It's two
it's
heir
two.
apparents.
They both come in with an additional +1/+1 counter.
Oof,
Um,
man.
this is going to be just such a great value piece. Obviously, 5 mana. It's not cheap. This is not an early play. It's going to be something that will be a little bit more mid game, likely to really see that kind of play, especially since it's in white. Um, you know,
If you play
but
mono white, yes, but a lot of these decks, especially a lot of decks now, are playing at least green as well, right? Your token deck has green. My token deck has green. I do have a mono white deck that it would be cool to have, but like this would not necessarily be a big include to it. But
yeah,
both of our token decks, like we have green, so we do have the ability to ramp. So it's not as it's kind of dangerous, especially with the types of decks that tend to run a lot of tokens, especially like Selesnya decks. Terrifying. Like it's you have
yeah,
this is almost you have to get rid of this card with any like token deck because they're coming back.
yeah. It's obviously it's not supporting tokens since it's from your graveyard, but it's all those token support creatures.
Oh
The
yeah,
welcoming vampire, the heir apparents, champion of Lambholt. um,
yeah. That's
uh,
it's
so so
so
so many cards are going to be scary
so
to be
disgusting.
popping back down. Um, it's going to be a super fun card. I'd like to say there's some advanced play, some advanced manipulation to this, but this is just going to be a value engine. You can sacrifice, bring it back, chump block, bring it back. Just over and over and over. Every upkeep, you could get more ETBs for free, essentially. Um, yeah, it's a great card. It's gonna be a really fun inclusion to a few things. You
Hmm.
know, it's I'm excited. I'm excited. I have two decks in particular that I know this is gonna be really really fun in. But when we move on down to the next card we're gonna talk about, Tursa Light Shatterer. Um,
Hmm.
this I'm not gonna say it's gonna be the most powerful card, but it's gonna be so fun. 3/3 for 3 with haste. Enters, discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards. Great little cycle, kind of sculpt that hand just on that ETB. But then on
Hmm.
that attack, if there's 7 or more cards in your graveyard, exile a card at random from your graveyard. You may play that card this turn.
Oh man.
Obviously, it's random. You could end up playing a lightning bolt. You could end up blasphemously acting your own board. I love that element of chaos in there where you're like, okay, I'm about to play this. What's in my graveyard that I want to play? You know, um, it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting, and I do love that it's just card. It's not spell. It's not creature. It's not enchantment. It's just you know a card at random. It could be a land. It could be a soul ring. It could be
I mean, you just
an
gotta.
Ur Dragon.
If anybody can manipulate their graveyard, it's really going to be kind of interesting to see. And now that I think about it, I don't think there's a ton of decks that have red in it that do like graveyard, manipulation. But maybe, I mean, there might be a few.
There's some. My Prosper deck, for example, has some amount of
Sure.
graveyard manipulation. I think this will be a little bit more niche. I just think it's hilarious. Just a random card on attack. It comes in with haste. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those weird things too, where I think people aren't going to necessarily want to remove it. It's going to hit the battlefield, and everyone's going to be like, "What's in your graveyard?" Like,
Yeah.
you just discarded 2 cards. What's in there right now?
Yep.
Like,
Yep. I mean,
I
you're.
mean, in all fairness, you could play this on 3. You could discard 1 card, and it's the only thing in your graveyard. What is it? It's an ancient copper dragon.
Yeah, and I no. You go to combat, I destroy this thing. Like it's.
Yeah, that trigger goes onto the stack. No, thank you. Please send it to the graveyard.
Yeah.
Um, you know, obviously there has to be 7 cards in there, so you can't manipulate it down to less than a 1 in 7. But it's gonna be fun.
the
It's
the
gonna be
fact
really
that
really
you
fun.
are able to potentially get a chance at just a huge drop, right? It's kind of like those reanimator decks where they would put something really big into the graveyard and they reanimate it out. This isn't as bad because it's random, but the fact that you could drop a Blightsteel Colossus, an ancient copper dragon, right, onto the battlefield right now, just on attack, that is scary.
It
It's
it is. I do love that they put it at 7 though. I think that that's really important where you can't manipulate it to less than 7 in your graveyard. There has to be some random
mhm.
chance. I mean, if you can manipulate your deck enough to have 7 good pieces of fuel in your graveyard and only good,
Yeah.
I think you deserve to cast them. If you were able to manipulate your deck that much, I think you get it. Because let's be honest. I mean, if this is going in a cycle deck, you're discarding cards. There's going to be a land in there. There's going to be a thrill of possibility. There's going to be some things that are like, meh, it's a card. I got value. I'd like to think that this card was somehow a leftover from the Warhammer decks and they reskinned it
Huh.
from the Chaos decks because this is true Chaos. It could be anything. It could even be a boat.
I mean, it's yeah, it's the fact that they gave it haste, and it's 3 drop, and the fact you get to put something into your graveyard, from your hand. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's random and it's 7 cards. You're right. Like that's what makes it fair. Because if you could just do this without having the 7 card uh, limitation, or if the card wasn't at random, if you didn't have both of those, in the way that the card is currently formatted, this thing is so broken. I mean, so
Yeah,
broken.
it absolutely puts a huge because earlier I said if you played on 3 it wouldn't be online at 3. I mean, not unless you somehow manage to discard 7 cards by turn 3, which I guess is possible.
In a red,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, thrill of
that's
possibility.
true.
What is it?
Yeah,
What
thrill
is it?
possibility, faithless looting.
Yep.
Yeah, that it could come down and mill in your seventh card. That's true. Fetch land, also putting another thing in there. Um, it's unlikely but possible, but fun card. Again, do I think it's going to change the format or break anything? No, I don't.
No.
Will I include this in some decks just because it's hilarious and potentially on turn 5 terrifying? Yes. Yes, I will.
Yeah, you just need to get lucky. You just need to get lucky that one time.
Just a little bit of gambling inside of our Magic, just
Mm-hmm.
just just a tiny bit. But let's move on to a slightly more consistent card, which I really enjoy. It's not special, but Nature's Rhythm. The double green X. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less. Put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. It's a tutor effect that goes onto the battlefield. That's nice. Obviously, you're having to pay the full price of the creature +2 to go for it, but I think it's a really great tutor that goes onto the battlefield, and I really like the additional harmonize effect, where you're getting to tutor, it's going to the graveyard, and then you can cast it later. For a really expensive cost, but then you get to kind of reduce that cost with
Creatures.
the harmonize effect. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like Convoke, but not quite because it's based on their cost. But it's really really fun where you can potentially tutor two things, potentially two large things, especially since it's in green. I think it's just a really fun, consistent thing where you could tutor early for something that's 4 cost, 5 cost, and then potentially tutor later with a tap for something 10 cost per se. Um, I think it's just a really great, consistent tutor um, inside of green.
Yeah.
I'm glad when they give tutors to anything that isn't black.
Well, so this is kind of interesting because this is like a worse version of Green Sun Zenith. Green Sun Zenith, 1X, you get to tutor for a creature with X cost, but then Green Sun Zenith gets shuffled back into your library, so you get to draw it again. I think this is kind of interesting because this is like I have the chance to get whatever creature. It costs one more green than Green Sun Zenith, which is whatever. And green, I don't know if it's really that big of a deal, but the fact that I get to get a guaranteed recast of this from my graveyard rather than having to hopefully draw it again makes this a little bit interesting. I do think that the harmonized mechanic is interesting for sure because it's not I get to tap has as many creatures as I want, so it's not a convoke effect. It's I get to trap one creature. And I have to hope that one creature is going to reduce this by an amount that is good enough for what I want to do. So it's it's kind of interesting. I think this is going to see a lot of play. I just think that it's interesting. It's his Green Sun Zenith that is like tamed down a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely not some CDH changer. It's
No.
not some craziness. I like the consistency. I like the fact that I get it once and I get it again.
Yeah.
And to some extent, if you have a lot of mana, you can harmonize to bring out a creature for 5, then immediately harmonize for another thing to bring out another creature worth maybe 7. But I think it's also nice that if you have to tutor for something small early and then you have a dead turn, you can potentially just dump 10 mana
Mm-hmm.
into something randomly when you're like, I don't really have any other interesting plays. Let's go find Kozilek.
Let's find Blightsteel Colossus. Let's
Yeah,
ruin
let's find
someone's day.
Blightsteel. Yeah, the Blightsteel dropping in, the Darksteel,
Oh
Colossus,
man.
even, whatever it may be. There's so many powerful giant creatures that this could potentially just be a fill turn for. But let's shift on. We've been talking all these mono-colored cards. I don't know why. So let's move on to something a little bit more colorful. Windcrag Siege. There's so many great sieges in this expansion. I'm a huge fan of this, specifically for the Mardu version of it when it comes out. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Man, doubling combat triggers for 3 on an enchantment sounds pretty good to be in Boros.
Yeah. Windcrag Siege, a enchantment for a red, white, and a 1. You have to choose either Mardu or Jeskai. For Mardu, what you said, Ryan, which is if a creature attacking causes it to trigger ability, it'll cause it to trigger again. With the Jeskai, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. It gains lifelink and haste until the end of turn. Not like you look at this, and these don't equal, right? They aren't the same, right? This is not like a choice that is difficult, which is really interesting because making a 1/1 red goblin creature token on your upkeep. Don't get me wrong, it is good, and especially has lifelink and haste. Like it's good, especially if you have a goblin centric deck. But for the Mardu side, oh man, there are so many decks that this could end up in and just be totally terrifying. Like is wild.
Yeah, it's definitely the two effects are not equivalent. They're not even close. I couldn't imagine a time where I'd be choosing Jeskai unless I was, man, I needed some sacrifice fodder really, 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 really bad.
Yeah, I mean,
Like things have gone totally wrong. Nothing's working. There's no combat triggers. But man, I need to get my tutor out, and I need to sacrifice for it. It's
no, I mean it's really difficult.
it's kind of funny how polar opposite they are, especially since most of the sieges have at least two okay options. But this is definitely polarizing. But I think the fact that this doubles that combat triggers in Boros is so scary.
Insane.
There's so many Boros combat triggers. It plays right into it. It's an enchantment, so obviously it's a little bit more niche to remove, where it's not susceptible to board wipes. It's not susceptible to that individual target creatures. It's just going to stick around most of the game because it doesn't kill you. I mean, that's just honest thing. It has to have something with combat triggers to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But so people aren't going to want to spend the removal on it. But man, those triggers happen.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since you're in Boros, so they might be triggering 3 times with the right combination of cards out there.
Yeah.
I think it is interesting that they've done it in these particular, colors where it's dual, but then you choose your third color. I really kind of like that. And I think what about it I really enjoy is that while you have to choose, Mardu or Jeskai, you don't have to be in Mardu. You could just be Boros. Or you could be in Jeskai choosing the Mardu option. You're not locked in to that choice based on your colors.
Which is the coolest part of this. That's the coolest part about these cards is that they're not locked in. Like you can put this in so many different decks that it makes it really cool to see.
Yeah, I really appreciate that they made it in the dual colors and not tricolors, or anything like that. Really allowing kind of that flexibility. But I think they did, while this is on flavor because doubling combat triggers and creating tokens at upkeep is definitely inside of Boros. They're definitely not the same level of power, but you can't have everything be perfectly balanced, and I think it's fun that they kind of gave that flexibility. And they did it for 3.
Really cool.
Which is something interesting that this is 3, and then you move on to Hollow Muck Siege, which is in black and green and no generic mana, just for 2. I think this is 2 incredible options, and I like them both. I don't know if they're perfect at Soul Tie. When a counter is put on a creature you control, draw a card. This only triggers once per turn. I like that this is once per turn, but I really appreciate that it's not just on your turn. It's on any turn.
Yes.
So if you have ways to proliferate, add counters on everybody's turns, man, you could go around a commander game. I draw a card. I draw a card on your turn. I draw a card on your turn. I draw a card on your turn. Really, really powerful. Obviously you have to manipulate your counters on other people's turns, but great. And even then, the Asban, When you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. It gains menace until end of turn. Now, obviously, drawing cards is really powerful, and it's probably what a lot of people will choose. But +1/+1 counters and menace, when you just put this out for 2, man, that sounds really nice if you're trying to get an on combat damage trigger. You're really making blocks more complicated, or you're swinging with a 1/1 death touch that now has to be blocked with 2 creatures
Mm-hmm.
because now it's a 2/2. Um, it's got that menace. I think it's a really interesting second option. Again imagine most people will probably choose that first Sultai for that card draw. Everybody loves more cards, but I like the +1/+1 counters on every combat or on every attack, and I love menace. It's one of my. I love making blockers more complicated for people. It's again the
Mm-hmm.
math is for blockers. Your math is now harder.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, like it. I think these are two very balanced, choices where uh, you're gonna have to have black and green inside of your color identity, especially for like commander. Um, this is gonna be you're gonna love +1/+1 counters, and you're going to love drawing cards. Everyone loves drawing cards, but I think the big thing is that they both can you can support this in either combination, right? Where I can have cards that can manipulate my counters. I also can really benefit from that +1/+1, and to give it menace. Wow, like it's kind of crazy. And those counters don't go away. So like yeah, I only gets menace to the end of turn, but I mean you can continuously pump creatures.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's definitely
it's
very very
fun.
good.
Yeah, it's fun. I love that it's for 2. Man, you can play something out for 1. I think this makes you know I think also it's a me thing. I really love menace. I
Very
think it just
powerful.
make that blocking decision just that much more difficult.
Hmm.
Do I chump with 1? Oh, now I have to chump with 2. It's got death touch. Oh man, that's a problem.
Yep. Yep.
um, and it just in black and green too. This is gonna be so fun in those Sultai decks, in those Asban decks. This is also going to be fun in some other colors that aren't Sultai and Asban. Uh, this is just going to be fun in anything with. I mean, just in Golgari alone, even this is
Yep.
going to be really, really fun.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that they chose Golgari for this and not Simic or something else. Um,
Yeah. I
you
mean, the
know,
Jund decks are gonna love this. I mean, Jund decks are gonna. Whew, they're gonna love everything
I
about this.
the next card I think has kind of gone under the radar with people I've spoken to, and I've shown it to some people, and they think it's fantastic. Other people are a lot of fans, but Fang Keeper's Familiar.
Oh.
Black, green, blue, one colorless. It's a 3/3 snake with flash. Now, when it enters the battlefield, choose one. Gain 3 life, surveil 3, destroy target enchantment, or counter target creature spell. Now, obviously, none of those 3 things are obnoxious. It's not unbelievably powerful. This does cost 4. Um, but I really enjoy this card for the flexibility that it offers. I think I'm going to run it for the fact that it's a 3/3 with flash. So it's a body that can become a blocker, and when it enters, I can surveil.
Hmm.
Okay, that's sweet. I surveilled. That's really great for my deck. Or I destroyed that enchantment. I came in and destroyed that Rhystic Study. Or I came in and I countered the Crater Hoof Behemoth. Whatever it may be. I think it's just really fun that it has 3 options with great flexibility on a creature. I like that it gives this effect with that flexibility, then gives a 3/3 body, which obviously it's not large, but it's enough to stop what you need most of the time. It's either going to chump something huge or it's going to kill a 3/3. How often do you flash in 3/3s? I don't see it a whole lot.
Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing is that each one of these abilities is powerful on their own, right? Especially in the decks that care about it, right? The ability to gain 3 life and surveil 3, especially in a deck that cares about surveilling, crazy. The ability to destroy enchantments. I mean, sure, maybe not as powerful as other things, like being able to just destroy anything, but in becoming more and more prevalent is enchantments, especially when you add this set into the whole thing. Like so many enchantments and so many very powerful enchantments. You're talking about Drachnogenesis, right? You're talking about
Yeah.
some of these super powerful cards that will change the swing of game. You have the ability to just destroy it. Crazy. The ability to counter target creature spell. Not as good as being a counter target spell, but like you said, countering that Craterhoof, that they were in the game right there, and you stop them. Each one of these abilities is powerful on their own. The fact that it comes along with a 3/3 creature makes this like almost an auto include into any deck that definitely has surveil synergies. But any deck that is Sultai, right? I mean, really, being able to just counter a target creature spell, being able to destroy an enchantment on a 3/3 body that you get to just bring in. Oh, just absolutely, please, just bring it into my deck.
Yeah, I think one of the key things too, and talking to people, I've really had to say, I'm like, it's not on cast, it's when it enters.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a great reanimation piece. Obviously, you don't really see blink inside of Sultai, but you see all the reanimation you could ever want. I mean, I wouldn't mind bringing this back over and over and over to surveil more, gain more life
Mm-hmm.
every turn. Just keep churning the graveyard. Or, if you see that enchantment heavy deck, well, guess what? I'm going to play this, sacrifice it, play it again. That's gone. That's gone. No, thank you. It's a fun little piece. Is it going to be game changing? No, but it offers incredible flexibility. I'm definitely going to run it in my Sultai decks. Speaking of things that are fun, going to be a little bit hard to, require some work to manipulate, but Mardu Siegebreaker. So obviously red, white, black, and then the colorless. It's a 4/4 body with death touch and haste.
Mm-hmm.
When this creature enters, exile up to one target creature you control until this creature leaves the battlefield. Whenever this creature attacks, for each opponent, create a tapped token copy of the exiled card attacking that opponent at the beginning of your end stack. Sacrifice that. So, this Death Tusk H creature is now myriading something terrifying. And that thing could be a Blightsteel Colossus.
Could be.
Obviously you have to avoid those legendary creatures, but man, there's a lot of really, really strong things that you'd want to throw 3 copies of, especially in Mardu. And going back to the Windcrag Siege, look at this attack trigger. The Cadevil.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm.
There's now 6 Blightsteel Colossuses, 2 attacking each opponent. Oh boy. This is terrifying that it says haste. I can't believe that they gave it death touch and haste. So whatever, I mean, obviously you're going to want to block this and kill it, but it's got death touch. So whatever you're blocking with, it's gone. And then you still have to deal with whatever was exiled. Now, obviously you have to have something on the battlefield worth copying, but I don't think that's that hard. If you untap with 4 mana and anything at least okay on the battlefield, instant value. Just absolute instant. And not to mention, when this leaves the battlefield, whatever you exile just comes back onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
So they still have to deal with the original creature.
Yeah, this is kind of like the fact that they said leaves the battlefield instead of just it destroyed, right? Where you can't get around the exile mechanic, where even if you exile this, it's still that thing is still coming back. So it's this is the worst of worst situations where you have to kill this because it's just gonna continue doing its thing, but you also have to deal with whatever's coming at you. That is the exile piece. So maybe the exile piece is much scarier than this, but that if you don't kill the Mardu Siegebreaker, you're just gonna see that token come by again. So it's you're dealing with what is uh, two really bad choices that are going to have to be dealt with. And I don't know. Even in, like you said, when even if you're able to deal with the token that's coming in, and you're able to deal with this, you still now have to deal with the actual card that was the token. So it's the worst of two situations, and this thing will see so much play in any Mardu deck. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think what's going to be really fun is people are going to be, just copying weird creatures, it's going to be really interesting just kind of see what people kind of hunt for on those non-legendary creatures to, get past that,
Hmm.
and before we move on, I just want to give credit to this artist that they made this card, and this knight is riding a chicken.
Hey, that is a
That man is
chocobo. All right.
that is a chocobo. I'm sorry. This man is riding an incredibly large bird into combat, doing terrifying things. Um, Huge credit to this card. Um, just all around, really really fun. And the next card that we're going to cover is uh, I'm going to mispronounce this perniation.
I believe you're correct.
Um, it's an Asban +3. It's a sorcery, so quite expensive card. It's 6. Return target permanent. Target permanent, not creature, not artifact. Target permanent from your graveyard to the battlefield with hexproof counter and an indestructible counter.
Oh,
This is terrifying to me. Obviously, it's 6.
oh,
It's a later game play. However, whatever's coming out is now untargetable and undestroyable. Like it is the amount of things that you can bring out that are not just a creature, but could be an artifact. It could be an enchantment. It's incredibly scary that you give something one singular thing that much protection. I mean, in all fairness, in a clever world, that thing could be your commander.
yeah.
Where I'm going to let it go to the graveyard. I'm now going to bring back the Dragon.
Oh man. You, you could think about so many decks that this could fall into, right? I mean, the All Will Be One Commander deck, Excel, Sign of Atraxa, you bring that back to the graveyard with untargetability and can't be destroyed. God, that's
Yeah,
just terrifying. It's terrifying.
you know, it's it's well balanced because it costs 6,
That's the
and it's a
one thing that
sorcery.
makes it balanced is
Yeah,
that it's 6 costs. But this is an auto include in any Asban deck or any 5 color, any color identity that has Abzan in it. Like this is almost an auto
yeah,
include because like everyone could do well with just bringing something really big out, right? Uh, all of the this is a new part of the reanimation package for Abzan. This is now part of pretty much anything that has big creatures that they maybe they get onto the field and maybe you destroy them, but I'm gonna bring them back. Uh, this thing's crazy, and especially since it's in green, right? This I think that's the thing that makes this the most scary, right? If this was any color combination that excluded green, I'd been like, oh, okay, this is definitely late game play. This is definitely a something that you don't have to worry about for a while. But when you have green involved, I mean, theoretically, you could see this on like turn 5, right? Maybe even sooner than that, where they have 6 mana on turn 3 or 4. They now are just dropping this thing out, and there's something really big in their graveyard, and now like no one can catch up, right? We're too early in the game. This thing is crazy.
it's again. I love it. Obviously you have to have something good in your graveyard, and you have to have 6 mana. But man, it's terrifying. It's gonna be terrifying. The one of the things that I think of is uh, bringing back Dark Steel Colossus, Blight Steel Colossus, or any of these giant creatures but at the same time, you could bring back something like Darksteel Forge. Obviously, already has indestructible, but now it's also hexproof,
Oh.
making all of your artifacts indestructible. And I don't know how you're going to remove it now because you can't target it and you can't destroy it. Um, so unless you're exiling all artifacts, which is a very neat, it does exist, it's in the game, but is a very niche kind of removal. Um, I think this is going to be an include on a new commander deck of mine, which is what we're going to talk about next. Basically, our favorite commander decks, and I think it maybe not the most powerful, but the Asban armor really speaks to me. And Tom, I know you have a little bit of a difference of opinion that a different deck speaks to you.
Yes, the Sultai Arisen. I'm a Sultai player. I'm a Sultai player at heart, and this deck just it's really exciting to me.
Let's go ahead and take a moment and kind of pick through our favorites.
All right, for the Sultai Arisen deck, my deck, the deck that I'm very very excited about. The main cards that we were talking about, there's a bunch of reprints and there's some new cards that are coming in. For the new cards, we'll start off with the commander themselves. Codis Sig Champion? Yeah, I think I got that right. It's for just Sultai, legendary creature, zombie warrior, 3/3 creature. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its mana cost. Whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one or more of them entered from your graveyard or was cast from your graveyard, put 2+1/+1 counters on Codis. Very wordy, but very good.
Yeah.
You think about the amount of, you're talking about the reanimation ability of Sultai, the ways that you can pull things out of your graveyard, or the amount of cards that have, let's say, Unearth or Renew, as it's going to kind of come in. This is going to become Codis is going to become really big really quickly. You're just bringing all kinds of things back into. You're either casting it because of some keyword ability, or you're just bringing it in with Codis. So it's bringing a lot of big power here, and Codis is going to become a real problem.
Yeah, so many people see this and kind of think, well, it's a worse, Moldrath Gravetide, it's you have to exile cards to bring cards back, it's, kind of limiting. Yeah, maybe on that part, you have to eat some of your graveyard to bring some stuff back. Yeah, it is limiting, but it's 3. It's not 6. It's just Sultai. So he costs 3, then 5, then 7. He's not going to be that hard to cast multiple times. And it's that second ability, like you said, Tom. Whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, the 2/2 counters. I think, I mean, if you hit a really fun reanimation package or get a really big return, victimize, something like that, return 4 or 5 creatures in a turn. Oh, I'm now swinging with an 11/11. I'm now swinging with a 13/13 commander damage. I think this is one of those weird. This guy could just one shot you.
Yeah, I mean it's that's kind of crazy. It's crazy. I mean, like it's really big. Bringing us into the next card we're talking about, which is Tevel, the Balanced Scale. This is the secondary commander, the all commander in the deck. Sultai in 1 for a legendary creature, Spirit Dragon. Sorry, for 4/4. It's a 4/4. Flying. When Tevel attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Wow. I mean, there's a lot going on here. This is kind of the opposite to Codis, right? doesn't care about the creature side of it, cares about the land side. And you also don't have to exile cards from your graveyard to be able to activate it. And you're getting that creature onto the battlefield just like Codas is, but with extra land that's also coming in. So you're ramping while you're also getting creatures, and this just basically does it on its own, and it's on attack, so it doesn't have to require that you do combat damage. This thing is this is kind of crazy, and the fact that it has flying, it has some way to kind of get around blockers. It makes it very, very terrifying.
Yeah, I like this card. Honestly, when they introduced this at Chicago Magic Con, um, it made instant hype for the set for me in particular. I found it really fun where it's a weird zombie package on this dragon. It's just so screwy to put this weird reanimate land, kind of package on it. It feels really kind of new to me. Obviously, there are effects like it, but none of them are flying dragons, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a new spin to this kind of package. And they did hit with that. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, so you can't, you know, you have to do separate instances over and over and over. But again, Gravecrawler is included in this deck.
Yeah. But to move us on, right, for the Steward of the Harvest, right? So this is the opposite of Tevel. Where Tevel wants to bring back lands, Steward of the Harvest, we'll just read it. It's a 3 for a 3/3 creature human druid. When this creature enters, exile up to 3 target lands from your graveyard. Creatures you can control have all activated abilities of all lands exiled with this creature. I don't know how to express how broken I think this is. Because you think about this, right? Let's just point it. This is Sultai. 2 of some of the most powerful, actually, let's say the 3 most powerful lands that I know right now that are specific, like that are really, really good that people want to enter in. Let's say 4. Let's just go 4. Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, Cabal Coffers, Yavimaya, and Gaia's Cradle. The 4 cards, the 4 lands that I think are super powerful, right? Oh my gosh. Like this is insane. Like this is the fact that I can make every single one of my creatures a Yavimaya, Gaia's Cradle, and a Cabal Coffers.
So while I think you're entirely right, turning all your creatures into Cabal Coffers would be bonkers. I think there's, depending on the level of mean that you're willing to play, Stripped Mine is a card.
Oh no!
all your 2/2 zombies are now just Strip Mines.
That is insane.
Obviously, this is only as mean as you make your land base, and obviously you then have to have it exiled. So then it's exiled, and this creature's gone. So if this creature gets removed, there is some. However, that being said, this is in Sultai, and there is reanimation.
Oh, God.
So, this creature could come back several times.
What an ability, right? This is going to be nuts. I am very, very excited for this card, especially with the combination of Tevel and the combination in this card, right? Like, even if I get my Cabal Coffers out, right? I bring my Cabal Coffers out with Tevel. You destroy my Cabal Coffers? Fine. All right. I'm going to make all my creatures in Cabal Coffers. Like, it's gonna be crazy to see, and I'm gonna love seeing this. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But to bring us on to the next one, the Colossus Grave Reaver, right? There's a new dragon. It's Golgarian 6 for a 7/6 creature dragon with flying. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, mill 3 cards. Whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put one of them onto the battlefield. This is, again, one of those, like, this is the opposite to Tevil, right? If these two are out, what a time. You're bringing lands out with one, you're bringing creatures out with the other. It's this is gonna be insane. The fact that it's in Golgari really expands this ability, where now you can be in Abzan, right? If you care about that, you could be in Jund, you could be in Sultai, right? There's a lot of colors that they kind of match with this, and that is that makes this so good, right? Because you can think about all the Gargari decks that are all have reanimation packages or want to put things into the graveyard. It's whew, this is another ability that's going to be crazy, but yeah, I'm very excited.
Now, I this is just making me think of the creature. Of course, I'm forgetting it. Pay to life surveil too.
Oh yeah,
Um, where you could just be like, how many times can I surveil two to bring out enough gas to, because each separate instance, triggering that effect, surveil two, surveil two, surveil two, over and over and over. Obviously, this costs 8. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially if you're hard casting it and not reanimating it with something. This is, uh,
and to round us out to the last new card that we're going to talk about, which is Will of the Sultai. Sorcery for 4 and a green. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both instead. So this is another version just as well. Target player mills 3 cards. Return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Or put X +1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is the number of lands you control. It gains trample into the end of turn. If you get to choose both of these, oh god.
I could just see this. You're on turn 10. You got 50 cards in your graveyard. 15 of 20 of them are lands. You now have 25 lands on the battlefield. Something's get 25, 25 +1/+1 counters and trample. And in this deck, hopefully it's your commander.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Codas, like, for sure, like this card kills somebody if you're playing Codas, right?
Even Tevil with that flying,
Yeah, even Tevil
gives
with
him
that
that
flying,
little
yeah.
bit of avoidance, makes it much harder to block, you could easily put, I mean, with base 4, you could easily put on 17 counters on this guy in late game. Wouldn't even be hard with, your graveyard full. Just such a scary card.
Yeah, this
It's
is
not Jeska's will. It's not a Chroma's will. It's not quite, as big a swing. It's definitely not an early play. This is a late play. You're not going to get huge value on this on turn 5, most likely. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you've been really lucky and you've put 15 cards in your graveyard and a lot of them are lands. But,
yeah,
it's going to be fun.
yeah. This
It's
one
going
is
to be a
gonna be
really,
great.
really fun card. Again, it's not going to kill everyone at the table. But it's going to be a really, really fun play,
Yeah.
and it's a great addition to this Sultai deck. It's very flavorful. Again, there's a few parts of the Sultai deck that feel a little clunky to me, but it is a precon, and I think overall this will be a really fun thing to pilot. I see why you chose it. It makes sense to me. This will be a fun play. It has a lot of different reanimation choices and a lot of. I mean, this thing's just going to have a lot of creatures, and some of them are going to be really big. It's very that fun creature centric. You get to play out of your graveyard and get to play out of your library. It's always fun having 2 libraries. Just one of
Oh
them
yeah,
everybody can see.
yeah.
You know, but
And with
I
it,
mean, even beyond these new cards, this thing has a ton of great reprints. You
oh,
know,
ton of great reprints. I think this is going to be the really fun. We're going to go through all the reprints. We're going to put them up on screen, but we're not going to explain what they are. We're just going to go over some of the noted reprints that are put in this deck, which there are quite a few really big ones. The first one we're talking about is Lord of Extinction. Really, really good reprint, and very excited for this. Ob Nixilis, the Fallen. Whew.
Ooh.
Landfall, let's go. Like, I'm going to love seeing this card in this deck. Going to be absolutely amazing.
I think if you switch to Tevil in particular, this will be a really, really fun piece where you're getting more guaranteed land drops, and then just getting those +1/+1 counters. It hasn't been this hasn't been reprinted since. I'm trying to think. Like I think it was Iconic Masters.
I think it's Zendikar.
Well, I know it's
no,
from
no.
Zendikar, but I think it was reprinted. It was
It was
reprinted at some
reprinted
point, but it's been
in
a while.
Iconic
It was one of the
Masters.
masters. Was it Iconic? Okay, so
yeah, it was Iconic
yeah.
Masters. I think it was also put in the Duels of the Planeswalkers, which
Okay.
it was in there. I can't remember which one came first, but yes, like this thing has been seen in Zendikar, Iconic Masters, and Duels of the Planeswalkers. So yeah, this is going to be its fourth print other than the list, but it's gonna it's really, really cool to see. The next one we're talking about is the Dalthy Voidwalker. Oh boy. This card. I'm so excited. I believe this is this is the second set that is being printed. I think it came out in Modern Horizons 2, I believe.
Yeah.
The people have been asking for this to be reprinted. The fact that they're reprinting it and they're putting it into a commander deck. I mean, thank you, Wizards. I mean, that's really, really cool. Life. The next one being Life from the Loam. One of our dredge decks. I think that dredge being a keyword that won't see a lot of prints in this commander deck will find itself putting a lot of dredge into this commander deck, depending on who you're playing as your commander, and but I think Life of the Loam is a really good reprint in this. The dredge effect is really going to help with getting things into your graveyard. And the last one, we're talking about Crypt of Agadim. This is this Cabal Coffers at home. You get to add 1 mana, but for 2, you get to tap and you get to add one black for each black creature in your graveyard. All right, so it's not even close to as good as Cabal Coffers, but still can bring in a lot of extra mana, especially in a deck that wants to put things in the graveyard, things that have dredge in it. This is going to be really exciting to see. Really, really good reprints. I will give Wizards the clap because we only have talked about this deck so far, but all of the decks have some really good reprints that we're gonna see, and it's very exciting to see that we're getting really, really good cards that have cost a lot throughout the ages, but are getting printed in a way where you have access to them easily, right? They're not getting printed in the set. They're not part of some special alt art or only in the collector boosters. These are in the commander decks. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Again, they're not some crazy $50 cards or nothing, but they're great little additions that players want in lots of different decks. It's nice to see Wizards not just hoarding these really fun little cards, and giving everybody a guaranteed shot at them. You don't have to hunt for them. They're not a special guest in the set where let's open up 50 packs and see if we get it.
Yep.
It's I bought the commander deck. I have this card now.
Yep.
It's nice that they give access to that for here.
Absolutely. Now, those are all the cards that we have in the Sultai Arisen's deck, and now we're going to move on to the Abzan deck.
That's going to lead us into my kind of choice for these commanders, the Azban Armor. I'm a fan of this deck. I like the fact this is a dragon set, but this deck isn't. There are dragons, but it's more about things with big butts. It's fun that they made defensive kind of style inside of something that I think otherwise is kind of very an aggressive set on different kind of effects. And I think the default commander is one of my favorite cards of this set. Felthadar the Steadfast. He's going to be for Asban and one generic. He's a 0/5. He is a legendary human warrior. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have defender, and then his final effect, which I love so much, pay 3 and tap him. Sacrifice another creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness, then discard cards equal to its power.
Oh god.
So if things have gone right, you might be drawing 10 cards and discarding 0. Obviously, you've had to sacrifice a creature, so you've lost something. But if I have to pay 3 to draw 10 cards and lose a single creature, I'm very happy. That is an acceptable trade for me. I really like this card, and I love something about it that I know people will judge me for that's silly. This man is riding a Komodo dragon. And this Komodo dragon does not care about you, does not care about your feelings. He's got wicked side-eye for days. He is coming in there to eat up these walls, and he doesn't care about your feelings. I really, really, whoever the artist, 10 out of 10 would recommend. I hope they draw more cards just for this.
This is really crazy to me. I mean, this commander is so. I think it's really powerful for the sake that it solves all of the problems that you would have. Right, you would have the problem of having things that are defender that have big butts. Right, not being able to attack. It solves that problem. The one thing with defenders is that they usually have low power, high toughness, but this thing kind of just has you assign the toughness as its power instead of that. And then the whole sacrifice ability, right? The whole idea that you'd be able to draw cards and you have to discard equal to its power. You are sacrificing a 0/5 that just did 5 damage. And now you're going to draw 5 cards and you're going to discard 0. Wow.
I love to see that they've put in another incredible defender commander. It's not just Arcades, the strategist. They've printed somebody else who does something very similar in slightly different colors. I'm glad they didn't do Bant again. This is in Asban. The secondary commander in there, Bator Ancestor's Voice. 5 mana for Asban, 2 generic. It's a 3/5 flying lifelink, legendary spirit dragon. That's a lot right before we get in there. 3/5 flying lifelink, not a bad start. At the beginning of your end step, you may put a number of 1/1 counters on up to one other target creature you control equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. Return up to one target creature card with mana less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from the graveyard to the battlefield. While this is drastically different than the base commander. The base commander, obviously, defender enabler, all that. This, I'd hate to say it in a weird way, doesn't really feel like it fits entirely inside of the deck. It feels like an entirely different mechanic that you're going for. It can give counters automatically because it's a flying lifelink. You're going to be attacking every turn. There's going to be someone on the battlefield to attack this with. So you're giving 3 counters to a creature every turn. And you can damage yourself, then heal yourself back and reanimate. I love that this deck will allow you to really dig into those cards that damage you for an effect for reanimation, getting that extra value. I mean, the new Aether Drift card, everybody takes 2 damage, you draw 2 cards. Gonna be fantastic. Like, you dealt damage yourself, you dealt damage to your opponents, you drew cards, then guess what? You get to reanimate.
Yeah.
Fantastic effect. Does this fit into the defender stereotype this deck's trying to do? No. So the next card is going to add a lot of power. Canopy Gargantuan. It is a 7/7 for 7, 2 green, 5 colorless creature. Flying, Ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a number of 1/1 counters on each other creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. If this isn't one of the scariest things to untap with, I don't know what is. Because all my 0/4s just became 4/8s.
Yeah.
So the irony of ironies is even if your commander's dead, and this is on the field with a bunch of 0/4s or 0/5s, they just became 4/8s, 5/10s, or 6/12s, or in this thing's case, it just became a 14/14.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, that's the
And
one thing about this card that you have to kind of worry about is that it's going to do this, and your commander can never like be on the field once this hits. Like only either this card or your commander can be on the field, because if you have a bunch of defenders and this card, like you can't attack with your defenders, which is fine, but they can block you. But if your commander is also out, now your defenders can attack. Oh,
yeah, it's scary. It's fun. I mean, it costs 7, very, very expensive. I love that they gave it Ward 2, just that little bit of extra protection, make those removal spells cost a little bit more, give it that little kind of slipperiness. It's super fair that they made it on upkeep and not end step, so everybody essentially gets a turn cycle to kind of handle it. I think this is going to be a really fun card in Defenders. I think this is going to be a really fun card in any dragon deck that runs green, because all your dragons are going to have, they're all 5/5s or better pretty much. So all of a sudden your 5/5s are now 10/10s. And it's not a legendary creature. So if you copy this thing, oh boy, I have 2 of these. They're now both going off. Or I have 3 of these. The game is now over if I untap with this creature. It's a really, really fun card. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Well, let's shift away from the creatures. We've been talking a lot about creatures, and I'm going to talk about a really fun spell in here. Another will card, Will of the Asban. It's going to be in black, 3 colorless and a black sorcery. It's another classic. If you can control your commander, choose both effects. The first effect: any number of target's opponents each sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control and lose 3 life. You get to get rid of their biggest creature and they lose 3 life. It's not incredible, but not awful. Second effect: return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I love that it's for 4. You've now killed your opponent's largest creature and most likely brought back your largest creature for 4. Again, really fun. This is a great will card because, obviously if you just wanted to pay 4 and just reanimate, it's not cheap, but it's not awful. Also, this deck has some 7, 8, it has some really high cost cards. It doesn't feel bad to reanimate for 4 if you're bringing back Canopy, Gargantuan, for example. Like, I just brought back a 7/7 for 4 that's just going to eat people up. Really fun card.
I think what's going to be interesting, I think a lot of people are going to misread this. It's any number of target opponents. So if all 3 of your opponents have really, really big creatures, you're getting rid of everyone's big creature.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's and then you get it's a 3 for 1. It's that, I mean, that's incredible. Like, you don't really see a lot of cards that kind of do that, have that ability where I get to get rid of each one of your biggest creatures, but then I get to put whatever I want onto the battlefield. Really kind of crazy.
It's funny you mentioned that, and I didn't even consider that, but for a different reason. This is such an incredible politics card.
Oh
Any
man.
number. You can pick and choose. Is there one guy at the table who's a threat? All right, guys, I won't hit your creatures, but I'll hit his. Just, can we agree? He's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun little trade deal. Not game breaking by any means. Fantastic card. Great little dual effect. Really fun inclusion. I think there's going to be so many great targets in this deck in particular. There's 8 cost cards, 7 cost cards, a couple of 6 costers. Like, even out of the gate, this deck is going to get potentially really big value from this. That leads me to my next, which is incredibly expensive card. Reunion of the House. It will cost you 7 to cast this sorcery. 2 white and 5 colorless. It's costly. Return any number of target creatures with power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, then exile Reunion of the House.
Oh, God.
Now, obviously, it's an exile. You only get it cast at once. Obviously, it costs 7. Incredibly expensive. Man, this whole deck has like 10 power in its whole deck.
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna ever have more than 10 power in the deck. Like, I mean, oh.
I mean, you could if you had your entire deck in there, but this essentially says dump every creature in your battlefield or in your graveyard back on the battlefield. It's really fun. Again, is it overcosted? Absolutely. It costs 7. It's crazy, but it's just a fun reanimation effect, and because you're in green, you're gonna get 7. It's gonna happen. Um, I enjoy it, you know, and honestly, there's even more cards about this commander deck that I'd love to talk about, but there's also a lot of really great reprints, you know, really big staples from different defender decks. You know, one card in particular that's it's a reprint, but it's not because it's only ever printed in Jumpstart. Is Towering Titan. It's such a fun card. You know, 6 mana, 0/0. This creature enters with X +1/+1 counters, where X is the total toughness of other creatures you control. Then as secondary effect, sacrifice a creature with Defender. All creatures gain trample until end of turn. So, honest answer, great reprint. You know, it's because it was only printed in Jumpstart. It's like, was this a reprint or is this like original? It's not an original, but it is.
But I mean, jump starts are
printings.
not like people wouldn't consider jump starts like real sets. These are jump starts tend to be like the sets where, you know, people want to kind of jump into the game. You know, you're gonna get packs and you're gonna just shuffle things together, and then that's how that's gonna be. So there's, you know, I would agree with you. Jumpstart is not necessarily the way that I would, you know, claim as a set, right? If I were to claim it as a reprint, like this is almost a new card because it has not been seen in a set that has been available, like in, let's say, a standard package, right? It's kind of new, really.
Yeah, it's definitely new to kind of mainstream, I think. And the beautiful part about this card is it's so easy to have 15 or more toughness on your board in this deck. You know, this thing's going to come in as a 15/15. It's not a defender, so it's going to get to just swing on its own, and it can sacrifice a tiny defender and give all creatures trample. I mean, if this thing comes in when there's 30 power on the field, gets to attack next turn, sacrifice, I mean, this is just a huge threat for 6, depending on your board state. Great reprint, you know. Another kind of, is it a reprint? Is it not? Is Balin Century Herdmaster. This was only ever released in a secret lair previous to this. It's a 0/7 for 6, 2 white, 4 colorless. As long as it's your turn, each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So it kind of turns on your creatures. It obviously doesn't get past Defender, but it turns on the reassigning combat damage. Whenever Balin Century Herdmaster attacks, up to 100 target creatures get +0/+X until end of turn, where X is the total number of cards in your hand. I just think about this with Felithar. Right before you attack, you eat a 10/10. Or a 0/10. You now have, let's call it, 14 cards in your hand. All your creatures now gain 14 toughness and attack. Oh my goodness. You just filled up your hand. You're attacking with massive creatures. You know, and again, it's not a reprint. It wasn't a secret lair. This is the first time this has been easy access. Not an expensive card, but just a fantastic card.
Yeah, this thing kind of fits really well into this deck, but it specifically fits well in this deck. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, you got a really good combo in this deck. It takes a lot of cards, but you have, you know, this card, you have the Dragon, Felden, and then you also have what we just talked about, the Towering Titan, play really well together, where I'm going to give 14/14 to my creatures. I'm going to sacrifice a defender that's going to give everything trample, and they're going to assign their toughness rather than power as damage. It could end the game with those three. So it's kind of like Crater Hoof at home.
It's a really fun combo piece. This next reprint, I'm so happy it's in this deck. Dragon Lord Jamoka.
Ugh.
Please don't mess with my stuff. Such a great reprint. I love that they put it in here. It's going to be fantastic to protect all your stuff during your turn. Chef's kiss. I love that this is an inclusion in here.
And this might be the most expensive card in this whole deck, right? Because this thing has been above almost $20 for a long time.
You know, I think this printing in here is going to drive its price way down.
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jamoka starts sitting at $5 because of this, but fantastic inclusion. You know, just Seaborn Muse also included. Such a great card here. Another, roughly $10 card that obviously will probably go down a little bit in value now that it's been reprinted. Synergizes so well with this deck because you get to untap everything in each player's untap step, which ironically means if you're really, 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 really greedy, Fellothar on every player's turn could eat one of your defenders, drawing you cards. You could untap easily with 30 cards in hand if you were willing to eat all your defenders. Just one at a time. And then the last reprint I'll kind of mention is Staff of Completion. Printed in Phyrexia, all will be one. Again, it hasn't been printed a lot, It was in Phyrexia, all will be one. I don't think it's been reprinted since. It's a great little piece, to pay life. How I said I wanted more access for Baitor. This is one of the few pieces in the deck where you can really pay that life for great effects. Great inclusion. I could sit here talking about other reprints. This deck has lots of little niche defender pieces, other little kind of control and kind of things. It's a fantastic deck. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to pilot. Do I think it'll be the most powerful of the five? Not necessarily, but I think it'll be amongst the most fun and kind of give you a couple of surprise kind of, wow, that's a really big creature. Why is it so big? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's why. But the Commander deck's fantastic. I love that they did 5 of them. It's a little funky because then everybody in your pod can have one, and then you have an extra, just in case. Yeah.
Bring them 5-player pods back.
Yeah, make 5-player pods a thing. It makes sense. Make your Commander games last 3 hours. Mm-hmm. This is the way. But now that we've kind of talked about all that, before kind of want to move in real quickly to the draft and the sealed experience, kind of what we're thinking about that. I have really mixed feelings, Tom. Like, where do you stand on this?
I'm a little excited, but also a little worried. For anybody who hasn't done a lot of draft, it tends to be dominated by like 2-color archetypes, where if you go into a 3rd color, it tends to be for splashing only because there's like some bomb card that you have. But for the most part, most decks are going to be 2-color. And they try to tell you to go 2-color because going 3-color can be really, really difficult in a draft style deck. The fact that half of the archetypes are 3-color, I am wondering how much they are putting in for support into this deck as a draft environment. But there's a really big difference between doing a sealed environment where you get 6 packs, you make a deck out of six packs, than a draft environment where you have to like wheel and deal and you have to hopefully your cards make it back around to make your deck work. It can be a little difficult. So I am excited to see how they're going to do it because I love the fact that they're bringing in 3-color archetypes like they did in Double Masters. But I'm also worried because a lot of these cards tend to like play towards Commander or towards like styles that may go a little bit further play-wise than draft environments. But I think that it's only going to come out in how it plays. So I know that you and I will probably do a draft at some point with this, and it'll be exciting to see what that looks like. Now, what do you think about that? What do you think about the drafts?
I'd hate to say, ditto, man, but like, honestly, I think that The sealed will be fun because you kind of know where you're heading when you start to kind of craft your thing. But I think a draft could be kind of terrifying. You could open that first pack. All right, man, I'm going to try to go teamer here. You know, we have a lot of green, red. Then there's a little bit of blue support in here. And I think it's one of those things where because people are potentially going to be trying to draw from 3 cards instead of 2, it could be really hard to if you could have all 4 players for whatever reason trying to draft blue cards, but they're trying to do Sultai, they're trying to do something else, you know, they're just all trying to grab it, or they're all trying to grab green because one's doing Asban, one's doing Sultai, one's doing Teamer.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh boy, like they're all going the other kind of colors, but they're all trying to grab green, which will, you know, make it really hard to grab those kind of key cards. I think the draft experience will maybe not be as good, especially for those players who are newer to draft and haven't done a whole lot and like understand sometimes you just got to pivot, man. Like I know it's not ideal, but sometimes you're drafting your 7th card and you're like, dude, every single red card's been picked. Like
mm-hmm.
we're on like by the time I saw my first pack, there wasn't a single red card left. Like everyone's drafting red, we need to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or or you keep with red, but all right, we're gonna draft more black or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's I appreciate the fact that they've made 3 color archetypes for this and that they are trying to push that, especially since I think what kind of bothers me is like some of the 5 color cards that are here or like some of the 3 it's just like they're just gonna rot in the draft format, you know? Like you're not ever doing a 5 color sealed or draft
Yeah.
deck. And even 3 colors, man, even in a sealed, man, you could just not have enough gas. Like it could just not really work for you.
I
That
mean, yeah.
being said, I'm still gonna do it.
Oh
You
yeah. I mean,
know,
it's gonna be fun to see.
like in a weird way, even me being kind of negative, in a weird way, I'm like, man, you know what? That's a hell of a challenge. Because I'll be honest, we've done a bunch of draft. I've never once in the history of draft tried to draft a tri-color draft deck. Like I've always looked at it and been like, I'm not gonna make this work. You know, we're doing 2 colors. We're gonna do Golgari. We're gonna do Slesnia. You know, you know me. For whatever reason, every draft I always wind up in green and some other color.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It's not. It's never my initial plan, but you know, I'm always picking my 7th card, and I'm like, man, no one's ever picked a green card in this first pack. I guess I'm going green now.
Yeah.
And it seems to happen to me every single draft. But I think committing to 2 colors, like I'm going to commit to drafting green and drafting black, then maybe I'll draft white, maybe I'll draft red, might be the way to go for it, where you draft towards 2 colors and then kind of pick at that 3rd color. You know, as you said, splash it in. You know, and maybe that 3rd color doesn't really become like fully manifested until pack 3 of the draft, where you're really primarily, let's call it Golgari, and then you just got a little bit of white. You know, you just splash in a little bit of whatever you might need to kind of make that 40th card. You know, especially if you get lucky and get a dual land, or shoot, if you get really really lucky and get any of the fetch lands. You know, like I have to admit, if I got a fetch land, I would consider drafting in my draft. I'd be like, all right, well, how can I make use of this fetch land? Like that changes kind of some of the math here, you know, or any of the duels.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that's going to make a huge difference, right? I mean, you have the fetch lands, which not always going to have. It's going to be like one in a lot of packs that are going to get them. There's going to. I wonder if. I think this set actually has. Every pack will have a dual land in it. It's not like a great dual land, but it's going to be a dual land. So it's going to be a lot of fixing that are going to be in every pack. So like the 3-color is a potential, especially in a draft environment or a sealed environment. But I think you are correct that like I think it's going to be hard, but it's all going to be about how much support is going to be built into this. And the fact that it's going to be an archetype, like there is a real chance that, you know, you're going to have 8 people, 12 people do the draft, that each one of those people might also be trying to go for their 3-color archetype. So you all might be on the same level. But there's also a chance that you're not. And I think that this draft is going to be a different thing for different people. I think the people who
Yeah.
draft 3-color and have a great experience are going to want to draft this again. I think the people who draft 3-color and then get stomped by 2-color cards are probably never going to like draft this again because they're going to. But it's going to be interesting, and I think that's the reason why I really want to do
Yeah.
it. And I think that everyone should do it once. Right? This is going to be once in a very long time that we're going to get something like this. So
Yeah.
while it's hot on the presses, get into some draft. Do some sealed events if you can. Obviously the pre-releases have already passed, but like, you can do your own sealed events or talk to your LGS and try to get them to do a sealed event. I think it'd be a ton of fun to try to do this in this set. And, like I said before, the only time that we've seen this before this is in Double Masters. And go try to do this with Double Masters again. You're going to be paying like $12, $15
$30.
a pack.
Yeah.
Get into the opportunity now to do something with 3-color archetypes. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited and worried. I'm just like you, but there's a lot of things. We're definitely going to do it, but what is it going to look like on the other side? Who knows? But we'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah, it will, this all being said, can't wait to do one. We'll try to get one done here in the next week after we get our hands on some packs with over the next week here. Honestly, can't wait for this set. I think it's gonna be fun. In particular, I can't wait to play some of these commander decks and really tear them apart, see how they kind of compete against each other. It's gonna be fun. I think this set is gonna be my favorite set of 2025. It feels so of what's been announced and what's down the pipe. I think this will feel most Magic the Gathering more than any other set that's going to be released this year. There's going to be other sets that are going to have really exciting and powerful cards, but I think they're going to be more universes beyond kind of things and not stuff inside of the Magic the Gathering universe, which there's nothing wrong with that. Because Universes Beyond is a great addition to the game, and they should definitely keep doing it. I just don't want that to be the primary focus of the entire game.
I don't want to be the 50% of the sets that are released.
No, I'd like it to be a twice a year kind of thing, personally. That's me. Obviously other people I've talked to, I've talked to somebody who wishes everything was Universes Beyond. He's like, I just want more cool IP stuff, I'm like, okay, that's what you like. But again, however you like to play, please play that way. Again, there's nothing wrong. If you want to play Commander, play Commander. If you want to play Standard, play Standard. If you want to play CEDH, play CEDH. There's no real wrong answer to play this game as long as you're having fun and the people you're playing with are also having fun.
Yep.
That's one of the beautiful parts. That's why we play. That's why we're going to continue to play the way we like to play and the pods we like to play and go out there and meet some people. I think this is going to be an incredible set. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And I want to thank you all who are watching right now. If you've made it this far of the video, please like, subscribe, comment. We're going to do our absolute best to read all the comments. I can't promise that we'll respond to everybody, but we're going to do our best to read every single one. Thank you for watching. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Thomas.
And this has been Swamp Talk.
We're out.
See y'all later.